we're going to start the second part about this part about how you discover divine truth and a few questions around that.
Yep.
So can you share when and how did you for the first time hear about divine truth and how did you discover it really?
Yeah. So I think I was 20, 21, and I was just basically Mum's friend Cardi gave my parents a copy of I think it was Fear Is Your Friend, and that was the one that they first played. So I was just making some lunch in the kitchen and they were playing that one, and I was a bit like, I heard him say the word God and that, and I was just like, this was not long after I'd heard about all this thing how Jesus probably didn't even exist and God's just a. So I was on that page where it's just like, Jesus was talking about God and that, and I was just like, oh, turn that crap off, come on, like, what do you guys look like? But then I ended up sitting down and having a bit of a listen, and then I was kind of like, oh, I've just never heard anyone. He was talking a lot about fear and emotions and stuff, and I'd never really heard anyone talk about it in that way, and I was kind of interested. I was a bit like, okay, sort of how you could work through fears and have no fear, basically, and and I was pretty hooked after that one thing. I was just like, okay, so there's more of this. So
your first video was about fear?
Yeah, it was Fear. I think it was Fear Is Your Friend. Yeah.
Okay.
And it went from there, basically. Just
you just got into it.
Yeah, I just got into it. I was just like, and I just wanted to. I was listening to it, like heaps of it.
Is your mother into it?
They would say they're into it.
They would say,
they listen to it a lot.
What do you mean by they would say?
After hearing, seeing, because they watch it quite a lot. So, but after, Mum's seen my feedback session and everything, and she says she agrees with what Jesus sort of has said and stuff, but I can feel like, I don't know, it just feels like she hates me at the moment, and I don't know. I can't really judge their experience of it and what they're doing, so I can't say for certain, but to me it doesn't seem like they've never gone to a group, one of the assistance groups and that. Like, I do think if you're really into it, you're going to try and get a little bit involved, try and get some personal feedback or something. If you really want to know the truth about yourself, probably you'd make a bit of an effort, and they've had opportunities to do that, but haven't taken them. So I think
they don't really engage it.
No. So they like listening to it. They like hearing the teachings and everything, which would be the same with heaps of people.
Yeah,
and even myself, I'm in that group as well. But sometimes I do try to get a bit of personal feedback myself, and even though I don't like it,
you come and you go. Yeah. Well, if you had to summarize a little bit for an audience that never heard about divine truth, what it is about in a few words, what would you tell? And how is that different from the thousand of teaching on earth? Yeah.
Well, I think one thing with it is no matter what you believe or whatever, what Jesus is teaching is the truth. So it's kind of there's a lot of safety in sort of just actually knowing what is real, it's not wishy-washy or anything. It's really solid. It's really built on things that are just because you can experiment with the teachings, and certain outcomes will happen if you apply things properly, and if you deal with different emotions and that, you'll notice changes within yourself. So it's kind of it's really, that's definitely something I really like about it, is that it's sort of not changing. It's just but I'm not really sure. But I think the main things really is, the main part of it is desiring a relationship with God, I think, is the main part that I've definitely put off the whole time, really, and I'm really trying to work on that. Yeah.
That's the main part. So you would say the main part of the teaching is about developing a relationship with God?
I'd say I'd say it's probably the most important part of it, because if you don't do that, then you're really just taking the, like, from what Jesus said or what other people are saying, you're not really like getting that direct truth, basically. Yeah.
Okay. You were talking about you can experiment and you can see the result of the experiment and see if it works.
Yeah.
So, but is that not the same like if you engage meditation and you can feel your life is going better and it works? So
true. Yeah, I guess it's got to be over a longer period though as well, because you can. I think even if you experiment with some of the divine truth things and only look at it from a little period of time, it's not really that great a way of gauging whether you've changed or whether something's true or not.
Yeah,
I think it takes longer.
It takes some time to. So you must have quite a strong attraction to keep experimenting before you get to see the result, if it's true or not. It takes some time.
Yeah. But I think I've done it in a way that hasn't really gotten the results that I've wanted. I'd say I'm not a good example of somebody living the way, so my results haven't been very good. But at least in the so don't go crazy on your addictions because. And I guess it's still a learning experience anyway. Even not living the way, you can contrast it if you do experiment with trying to, and then you realize this other way. Because I am sort of feeling a little bit how, basically how much living in addiction is really hollow and not satisfying, and that's just how it works. You know, you slowly get brought into living God's way anyway. I think like that's the way the laws are set up, so you kind of eventually, like, you can do this other way as much as you want, but it's going to just and I am feeling some of the pain and suffering from living this other way that's very selfish, and so eventually
it's a feeling like our life is like fighting the way, and then you discover divine truth, and then you say, this is the way. Let's try if it's different. What the result? You know, let's try. I want to fight still. So why I want to fight first?
That's something I've been learning to do recently, is feeling how much I want to fight, and like I want to
my own way.
Do my own way, and just I have a lot of rebellion and resistance to law, like God's laws, and but I've never really felt them. So I've started I've been having a bit of a tantrum about the whole thing, and noticing some little breakthroughs because of doing that. So try to stick with that.
So would you say divine truth is a spiritual path? Is that a religion? Is that a cult? What is it for you?
It definitely doesn't feel like. It definitely doesn't feel like a cult to me.
Why?
Just because it's so flexible, I guess. Like, there's no, like, I've moved out here it just feels more like to spend some time with people that I enjoy spending time with, or it doesn't feel like there's any type of coercion or any type of, and I find that the teachings are very based on like self-responsibility, looking after yourself, and so it's almost like the group comes together, but it's kind of like everyone's still living their own life. They're still within. It's not like it doesn't feel separated from other people or anything, and so. Which to me, I think a cult is a bit more like that. It's more like an us versus them a little bit, even if you don't think of it. It doesn't feel like that.
It doesn't feel like it supports separating you from other people.
Probably it's the opposite. I probably feel from working through some of the stuff, like more open to getting to know anybody, you know. Okay. So, yeah.
Did you believe in the spiritual world and other realities as a child or teenager, or before you heard about divine truth?
No.
Like afterlife and things like that?
Not that I'm aware of. I didn't really think about that.
So what is that thing when you heard the first time this video about fear? So what made you really stick to it, and you didn't follow much things before in your life? You didn't,
that's true.
And there was this. You listened to that first. There was what's that bullshit, and then there was something happening, obviously.
Yeah.
But how would you describe that? And you are still like how many years after you discovered it?
Yeah, so it's probably been 10
years.
10 years now.
And you are still into it.
Oh yeah.
So what is it inside you that makes you that? Well,
particularly back then, I felt so much excitement about hearing the truth. Like it just was like overwhelmingly like, I don't know, it just brought me so much joy even just hearing what Jesus was talking about, you know. It was just I didn't really understand why, but so I just, but also looking back now, it's a bit like it was a lot more about the listening, less about the doing.
Yeah.
So I regret not kind of, I wish I did more of like taking notes when I was listening and sort of like immerse myself into the teachings a bit more and like experimenting with even just one talk at a time and taking actions on that, rather than, it was a bit more of like, I think I used it as a bit more of like another zoning out technique, but at least a bit of a feeling good thing, but I guess at least I was also absorbing some things.
Yes. So it was really fascinating to you.
Yeah.
Suddenly you discover something.
Yeah.
And you didn't understand why.
Yeah. And I think it came at a time when I was a bit, like I'd never done drugs or anything, but around that time, just before I sort of heard Divine Truth, I was kind of feeling a bit open to trying different, because I was going to like these music festivals and stuff like that and being offered different things. I was feeling more open to doing stuff like that. And I felt like, I think Divine Truth came at a good time because it sort of, I don't know, like just realizing how much doing those things disconnect you from yourself, and how damaging it is, kind of helped me not go down that way, at least. Yeah.
I really feel quite fascinating the way you discover Divine Truth, because it didn't feel like you were like looking for it. It just came into your face. So there must be something in your soul, or some influence, something that did like boom, it came into your face. This thing.
Yeah.
Why is this? What? It was just Divine Truth, and it could have been whatever else, and you never know. Maybe you would have taken another road. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I often think, what if my mum's friend never like shared,
what would have happened?
Yeah, I don't know.
Where would you be?
Yeah, I'm not sure. So I don't want to think about that, actually. Yeah, I think it would have gone, because at least in the back of my mind, I've had a bit of you know, I think it's sort of had, like, without realizing it that much, it has made me want to live to a bit of a higher standard. Even though I haven't really been, but it's kind of, I probably would have gone even deeper into sin than without even having a little bit of a stop, a bit of a pause sometimes, which Divine Truth did sort of help me maybe, have a little bit more of a bit of a pang of conscience sometimes. Conscience. Yeah.
How did you feel about AJ Miller claimed to be reincarnated and being Jesus? How did you feel about that when you heard that for the first time?
When I first listened to that Fear one, he mentioned a bit about, he said something about me claiming to be who I am, and I was straight away, I was like, oh, don't tell me you're going to say Jesus.
You were before you hear it.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And then he did end up saying it, and I was like, oh no, like, but then I was still like, oh, this is still really interesting. And yeah, but I'd say it didn't really. I didn't care that much.
Didn't block you to listen?
No, it didn't block me from listening. I was a bit like, I felt like at that time a bit like fairly open-minded. Like I just wanted to just.
You didn't believe it?
No, I didn't.
Did you?
No. It took me quite a long time to be a bit more open to thinking. Oh yeah, that could be actually true. Because a lot of the other stuff he says seems pretty spot on. So. Yeah, perhaps what he's saying about that is true as well. You
didn't have like kind of strong feeling about who is God, who is Jesus, and so you were quite open to. Yeah,
I actually felt very. I avoided any of the talks that said the word God in that first off. So I was actually, really anti-God in a way. Yes. Would be my feeling.
It's funny because the whole point of this teaching is to have a relationship with God, right? So it's quite interesting that people who are just angry with God might be attracted to it.
Yeah. In itself. But it's still my biggest blocking point. So
most people.
So, but I can feel a little bit of more wanting to learn more about it. Yeah.
After 10 years.
After 10 years. Yeah. It's worth trying.
Yeah, it's true that most people would not trust. Like if you talk to someone about, well, there's this guy in Queensland, he's saying he's Jesus.
Yeah.
They would just not listen anything more.
Yeah. Well, I was just wanting to give it a try. Yeah, and my girlfriend at the time, she was like, "You're in a cult, like you." That was her initial, like her main thing. It's like, obviously he's not Jesus, and so I had a lot of resistance from there even. But I was a bit like, I don't know what you're so worried about. Really, it doesn't seem. And actually, I did explore a little bit because he was on the news and everything around that time, and I was a bit like, I stopped for a second. I was like, fuck, is this a cult? So I thought I better do some like research into what cults are and
for the people who don't know, the media they were making like him a cult leader and all these things, very dangerous stuff. So
like this was well before I met him or been out there or anything.
Well, no, it was still maybe 7 years ago. There was all this media interest.
It was only a couple of years after I'd heard it. 2 or 3 years after.
And they were also condescending,
totally manipulated.
A lot of things.
The video and everything. Like put this evil sounding music and stuff like this.
Very dangerous guy, basically.
Yeah.
So and you had people around you telling you that's dangerous, man. So what happened to you?
So I just thought, I better just look into it a bit more. But I still had this feeling like it doesn't seem like what he's doing here. Like it just doesn't feel like that.
You were not scared to be manipulated and then
a little bit. Like I did. I watched some videos about how cults work and gurus work and how they. I think one of the things is like gurus and that play on different experiences people have with. What would you say? Like with the truth. Like when you hear things that are good, I think a lot of gurus use bits of truth here and there, and people like respond to that. Like their soul feels good about what this person is saying, but then they use it to their own advantage, and then use people and create a cult basically. Whereas, so I think a lot of people, do that. In a negative way, but I've never seen Jesus do anything like that. So.
And you have known Jesus personally, or it just?
Only the first time I met him was probably. It was actually when. It must have been 2014, I think.
First time you met him?
Yeah.
Have he ever tried to manipulate you or tried to...
Never.
To want you do something that you didn't want?
No.
Never?
Never.
Have you ever seen him doing such a thing with anybody?
Never.
Okay. So you were a bit scared at the beginning, and now how would you say? You have any fear of it being a cult today?
I don't know if I have no fear about it. I think it might be there a little bit, but I'm constantly proven that's not what's happening. Like in terms of what I observe and see, and
it's like your face in not being a cult has been great.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Now a lot of people, and I've been one a lot. They are attracted to guru. There have been a lot of people listening to Divine Truth, have been searching and trying other movement and other spiritual teachings, and wanted to follow someone and feel special and feel doing a change. And there is this kind of they would be attracted by a guru. I've been attracted by a guru before. You know. It was not your case, I understand, that you have not been... I wanted to be special. I wanted I wanted to find a father, or someone I could look up and with love. And then it's easy to manipulate someone with this coming, if they want. But
I do have that. I do have wanting approval from Jesus. I do.
So he could, if he had that intention, he could manipulate you.
He could, but he doesn't.
But he doesn't.
He doesn't. And even with my time volunteering, like after a year and a half of volunteering or so, I sort of I wasn't working through some different issues, and they asked me to leave, and I was. I think they could also feel like my heart wasn't really in it at that time, and they kind of like respect your own, it felt more partly that like I was asked to leave because I didn't even really want to be, in some way I just wasn't really in it anyway.
You were not passionate about being there.
I was getting to a point where like weeks leading up to it, I was feeling my own resistance. And I just felt like, I don't know if I even want to be here. I kind of want to go and just.
Can you share a bit what is this God's Way volunteer and what is it about?
Okay, so basically, I don't want to butcher this whole thing, but I think so. Basically, God's Way is an organization where they're trying to basically have a group of people that are trying to put into practice the teachings of divine truth, and try and kind of dedicate, not necessarily dedicating your life, but really trying to sort of change the world and kind of.
How they do that? How they try to?
At the moment, there's different. A lot of it's personal development stuff, and basically sort of taking lots of different areas of like environmental recovery, obviously sharing divine truth, and building. Cornelius is leading some renovations and building, and they're wanting to build a big function center where they can hold assistance groups and seminars and everything. Education,
child.
That's another thing. There's a whole range of branches that there's possibilities for the organization to help. I think it's basically wanting people in all different areas of life to, but what people are passionate about. So it's kind of like if somebody's passionate about, recovering the environment, then they sort of would be part of God's way, but and trying to do that in a way that's with the principles of divine truth,
which is principle of love.
Principles of love, basically. So
What is different from another organization? A lot of organizations want to change the world and do good. Or is it different to volunteer? They are all volunteers. People are volunteers.
Yeah,
they're not paid. So you don't go for a salary.
I was getting some. It's like you're a volunteer, but you. I was getting like they called it like a stipend, like where I think some of the donations they'd receive would sort of help cover some of our living expenses. So it was sort of a gift that they would. Obviously, you're a volunteer. They don't have to pay you, but it's a gift that they're giving to us to, so that we can continue full time, basically volunteering.
Okay. But you cannot expect when you go walking there that there would be any pay.
No.
You don't know.
No.
But you got a gift.
Yeah,
a gift that allow you to keep on working.
Yeah.
So that's how it works. But what's different? What other thing is different than another organization, a non-profit?
I'd say just the environment, like the people, like the loving environment, the standard of love that is upheld. I can't imagine other environments being like that. Other organisations having that sort of. I mean, possibly with different things, but I also love that you're doing things, but it's also you're learning about divine truth in a way as you're kind of working, and like you're learning about all these principles that I was already wanting to learn about anyway, and then it's kind of like getting to act them out, and then also seeing where your own flaw, like where you're not living up to that part. And
how do you know when you are not living that way?
You end up getting quite a bit, like you end up getting feedback. We'd have regular like lunches and meetings at the end of a work week, and where Jesus Mary or some of the directors would sort of give us feedback, like basically help where you
publicly. Then it was like this.
Like within the groups. Yes. Sometimes it'd be private feedback, but so they'd sort of really help you figure out what the emotional reason for these things might be. Like for example, like for me, I have quite a like I'm not very organized, and I'm not very clean, and I'm not very I don't finish things properly, and they try to help. And another thing was like not taking responsibility for like a whole project sort of thing. I like to be a worker, but not really, in charge of lots of different things. So they try to help you see where, I guess, your flaws that are basically the emotions within you that are holding you back from like your full potential kind of thing. So, and
so basically it's a practical way to learn about a loving way to deal with your passion, with your life, with everything. And you get always support to get more to deal with your block toward it. And you accomplish things for the benefit of humanity, for the benefit of
that's I think one of the main
just
reasons
yourself.
for it.
Just the organization.
Well, for me, I'm having to come to terms with my selfish attitude. Like a lot of it has been for my own. Basically, want to be seen in a certain way, wanting people to feel like I'm this good spiritual person, while I have this sort of separate life that's pretty dark, that's pretty, not good, but then present to everybody that So that's been something I'm still trying to, basically coming to terms with my narcissism. Really, that most of my life's really self-serving, and and even the things that I think are kind of selfless, it's kind of more about being seen to be selfless than actually being selfless. So that's
Well, you got quite a lot of feedback during this 18 months working at God's Way. Like it was many. And if you wish, in the third part, we'll a bit share more about what you are starting to share now. in my experience, personal feedback is really a gift.
Yeah,
it's really interesting.
Yeah,
it's not always easy to receive, but there is something that someone takes the risk of telling you things that you don't want to see often, and it might change your life. It might change a lot if you really take it seriously in your heart. So I find it's really interesting, and we'll come back to that if you want to. Have you ever been asked to pay something to listen to the teaching when you go to a seminar? Something that you need to pay for being?
Never.
No.
So they operate completely just gift based. So they're providing, they're giving seminars for free, doing everything because they're passionate about it. And
how they live then?
Well, people do pay them, but it's just out of their own. Like for me, it took me quite a long time. I guess that's my own selfish attitude. Like I was happy to receive lots of like just listening to the talks for the first few years. I never donated at all. Like you're not expected to or anything, but obviously I wasn't appreciating. Like I was receiving so much help in my life, but I was a bit like. Because I'm getting it for free, I'm a bit like, I'm not going to pay. I'm already getting it for like, I didn't have an attitude of wanting to give back, but then something clicked, and I just felt like a bit more. It's like I'm just not appreciating this gift, so I started doing like a regular, weekly, just a small. It wasn't much, but just a regular. Just within my own means of something I know I can afford that I can.
Yeah, it was your own decision, your own will, and desires to support, to contribute. Okay. Yeah. Nobody has influenced you into you need to pay something or.
Never.
No, that's not how it is. Okay. How your friends reacted when you start? I suppose listening to Divine Truth.
I guess because I've always been really shy and insular. Particularly around the time I first started listening, I didn't really have any close friends. It was more, I guess, my partner at the time. She didn't like it, but So
it was you. There was no problem.
No, I didn't really have much resistance from. Okay. And I'd talk. I guess I wouldn't talk. I didn't share much about it to people.
Would you avoid sharing about it in conversation?
Bit. Yeah, I did feel a bit just scared of being judged. I think for
Yes.
But it's not just Divine Truth. Like I have that with so many areas of my life of not wanting to share.
Yes.
So it's not specifically that.
Right. But here you speak about God, Jesus, like big topics, sin, things people do not like in average.
Yeah, but I have found that actually, like, when I do talk to people about it, like, people are a lot more open to the discussion than I was thinking. I guess I have a bit of a not a judgment, maybe a judgment, but
or fear,
an expectation that and fear that people will like not enjoy these conversations or something. But quite a lot of times, like even just random people in public,
So you mean you start talking about it openly?
I have been more recently,
Recently? Yeah. And it happened quite
just naturally,
yeah. No attack or anything like that, or or judgment, or
could be. But I had nothing that I really noticed
of condescension.
Possibly.
Or you, lost soul.
I'm not that sensitive to a lot of that stuff. Like, particularly when it's more just the feeling. I'm they're not verbalizing their condescension. Then I don't really notice it. Okay. So it could have been, but Are you preaching the word of divine truth to others? I wouldn't say I've ever really done that. No, I don't know. To me, that feels so like I'm a salesman or something, and I don't really like that. But I've never liked doing that. With like even when I was waitering and stuff, like kind of pushing people, manipulating people. I hate I don't know if that's actually true. In certain situations, I do it for my own personal gain, but with stuff like this, I really don't like it. But I wish I had a bit more of an open-hearted sort of attitude with it. That I'd like to develop, but I can't ever imagine wanting to be pushy with somebody about
like knocking at the door.
No,
and start
never.
talking about it.
Never.
No,
and I don't think you need. I think the thing with divine truth is if you are actually living it, and you are changing, and your life's changing positively, people will just notice, and they're going to ask you questions. You're not going to have to go and preach to everyone. And I think that's the way I've always responded to people. I've wanted to get to know how somebody's doing things. They're living in a way that's inspiring. So it's kind of that's the only time I've really been open to listening to what somebody has to say. If they're somebody just comes up to me and is on to me about blah, 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 this is what you should be doing, that's just... It's just, shit.
Can we say that Jesus and Mary inspired you?
Definitely.
And you wanted to listen more and to understand more how to be more like God, and they are more like God than you are, and you were inspired, and you kind of desired to change and maybe inspire others. That's what would be more a statement of truth.
Yeah.